all the presidents come into office, I have learned, understanding the idea of deterrence, this idea that we have these massive arsenals of nuclear weapons pointed at one another, ready to launch, so that we never have nuclear war.
Mm.
But what we're talking about now is, what if we did? What if we did? And what you've raised is like this really spooky, eerie subtext of the world right now, because many of the nuclear armed nations are in direct conflict with other nations. And for the first time in decades, nuclear threats are actually coming out of the mouths of leaders. This is shocking.
So, deterrence, the polite implied assumption is that nobody will launch. And if they did, we would launch back and everybody would be dead. But that assumption falls apart completely. The whole philosophy of it falls apart once the first launch happens.
Absolutely.
Then you have 6 minutes to decide, wait a minute, are we going to hit back and kill everybody on Earth? Or do we turn the other cheek in the most horrific way possible?
Well, when nuclear war starts, there's no like battle for New York or battle for Moscow. It's just literally, it was called in the Cold War push button warfare, but in essence, that is what it is. Let's get some numbers on the table, if you
Sure.
don't mind, right? Because when you're saying like, wait a minute, we're just hoping that it holds, right? Let's just talk about Russia and the U.S., the arsenals that are literally pointed at one another right now, right? So the United States has 1,770 nuclear weapons deployed, meaning those weapons could launch in as little as 60 seconds and up to a couple minutes. Some of them on the bombers might take an hour or so. Russia has 1,674 deployed nuclear weapons. Same scenario, their weapon systems are on par with ours. That's not to mention the 12,500 nuclear weapons amongst the 9 nuclear-armed nations. But when you think about those kind of arsenals of just between the United States and Russia, you realize everything can be launched in seconds and minutes. Then you realize the madness of mad, that this idea that no one would launch because it would assure everyone's destruction. Yes, but what if someone did? And in my interviews with scores of top-tier national security advisors, people who advise the president, people who are responsible for these decisions if they had to be made, every single one of them said it could happen. They didn't say this would never happen. And so the idea is worth thinking about, because I believe that it pulls back the veil on a fundamental security that if someone were to use a tactical nuclear weapon, oh, well, it's just an escalation. It's far more than that.
So to you, the use of a tactical nuclear weapon, maybe you can draw the line between a tactical and a strategic nuclear weapon that could be a catalyst. Like, that's a very difficult thing to walk back from.
Oh my God, almost certainly. And again, every person in the national security environment will agree with that, right? Certainly on the American side. Strategic weapons, those are like big weapons systems. America has a nuclear triad. We have our ICBMs, which are the silo-based missiles that have a nuclear warhead in the nose cone, and they can get from one continent to the other in roughly 30 minutes. Then we have our bombers, B-52s and B-2s, that are nuclear capable. Those take travel time to get to another continent. Those can also be recalled. The ICBMs cannot be recalled or redirected once launched.
That one is a particularly terrifying one. So land-launched missiles, rockets with a warhead can't be recalled.
Cannot be recalled or redirected. And speaking of how little the presidents generally know, as we were talking a moment ago, President Reagan in 1983 gave a press conference where he misstated that submarine-launched ballistic missiles could be recalled. They cannot be recalled. So that gives you, here's the guy in charge of the arsenal if it has to get let loose, and he doesn't even know that they cannot be recalled. So this is the kind of misinformation and disinformation and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently said, when he was talking about the conflicts rising around the world, he said, "We are one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear Armageddon."